This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 27.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Pellizzaro, the host of the 18 Strong Podcast. Welcome and thank you for coming back. I don't know about you, but I am ready for winter to be over. It is pretty darn cold here in St. Louis and has been for the past month or so. We started out pretty well with a fairly decent, warm-weathered winter where people were playing golf and enjoying it. And all of a sudden, it turned cold, snowed a little bit on us, and I'm not complaining too much. I know that you folks up there in the Northeast have had a brutal, brutal winter. And it's going to be a long time until some golf is played up there. So I don't want to complain too much, but we here in the Midwest and in St. Louis are ready to get the sunshine on, get some green grass, and get up there and swing the sticks. And it's going to be my mission this year, 2015, for me to get out and play quite a bit more golf, get better at this game, and really share the journey that you guys are on as far as the trials and tribulations that you experience out on the course and, hitting the dirt and making the putts. So that's my mission for 2015 on top of everything else that's going on. But the past couple of years just haven't been able to get out with the 3 kids, running the gym, starting a podcast, a website, all that good stuff. But I'm definitely going to plan on swinging the sticks quite a bit more. Before we get into talking about the show a little bit, I want to just give a quick shout out to my buddy, Dr. Brett McCabe, for his new podcast, joining the podcast world with some of the rest of us, like Jason Glass and the Coach Glass podcast. Dr. McCabe has now published his first episode on the Mindside podcast. So you guys got to go over and check out the Mindside podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever it is. There will be links, coming through the social media channels here on 18 Strong to support Dr. McCabe. He's just one of the best in the game of mental psychology, and it's how it plays into human performance, not just golf performance, but human performance. And he's one of the best. If you guys haven't heard Dr. McCabe speak, he was actually one of our early interviews here on the 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 6. I highly encourage you to go check that out and listen to him and give him all of your support and give him some reviews in iTunes and some ratings. So Dr. McCabe, thank you for all your help that you've given me, and just wanted to share the love, buddy. So good luck with the podcast. I'll definitely be listening. In regards to today's guest, we have Nick Chertock. And Nick is not a fitness guy. He is not a golf pro. He is not a nutritionist. He is not a mental game coach. In fact, Nick is a tax accountant, which is kind of strange to have him on the 18 Strong podcast. But the reason I wanted to have Nick on is, oddly enough, Nick is one of the most well-connected people I know in the world of golf, be that with swing coaches, fitness guys, golf fitness guys, TPI, all those folks. Nick has a love for the game and has a curiosity for the game as far as getting better and finding the best ways to do things and, really getting down to the bones of the physical part, the mental part, and the skills part. And in doing this, in his own journey, has just made some great connections and fostered some big relationships with different people in this world, and has gone so far to start some different Facebook groups with the golf fitness professionals, with the swing coaches, the biomechanics instructors, and has even created an open forum that is hosted at the PGA show that started out 3 years ago, where they hosted it in a bar with, I forget how many people, just a small handful of people. And it has now grown to over 300 people and has a panel of the who's who of golf in today's world. So Nick is a very interesting guy in the fact that this isn't his real job. He has basically, he has a full-time job as a tax accountant. He has kids, has a family, but this passion for golf has driven him to, just get into this world and engross himself in this world. And so we talk about a lot of the things that Nick has learned over the years, the relationships that he's built, and then some of the misconceptions and the miseducation, if that's even a real word, that golfers are fed on a daily basis through the media, through television, and through watching these guys on TV. And so we talk about some of the things that he's learned over the years. So hope you guys enjoy this interview. I know it's a little bit of a different twist on the 18 Strong podcast, but I know that you guys can relate to a guy like Nick who just has a passion for this game, loves this game so much, and what he's doing to bring progress to the game of golf for himself and for you guys, I think is very admirable. So enjoy. All right, Nick, welcome to the 18 Strong podcast, and thanks for coming on.
Oh, Jeff, thanks for having me, my man.
You bet. I know for the listeners out there, if you've listened to the show before, you've heard me talk a lot about the World Golf Fitness Summit out in Carlsbad. And once again, Nick is a guy that I connected with out there. Finally got to meet him face-to-face. I've connected with Nick via Facebook, and he actually runs or is kind of in charge of several forums on Facebook where a lot of us people in the golf world, the fitness world, the golf instructor world have all connected and have made a lot of friendships and relationships through that, thanks to Nick. But Nick, I have to say that it's very interesting. This is going to be an interesting episode because you're neither a golf fitness professional, a golf instructor, a mental game coach, which are some of the guests that we've had on the show so far, but at the World
nor am I even good.
Yeah, or a good golfer. But at the World Golf Fitness Summit, walking around, you are one of the most well-known guys out there, probably one of the most well-connected people at this fitness summit. How does that happen?
Well, I would give credit to the tool. Like, if you use social media, you can be a complete nerd like me and not have any real-life friends, but have a lot of Facebook friends. But no, I like to spend time just trying to learn from a lot of people, and even pre-Facebook, I had this list of golf people and people in sport and people in physical therapy and chiropractors and people who did soft tissue work and people who did research on motor learning, and I've just always been into that kind of stuff, so I pursue the people. And then when Facebook changed the way their groups operated back in 2010, I think, I started this group called Golf Biomechanists, and it kind of went from there, where there were some other groups that made sense to start, like the Golf Teaching Professional Group and the Golf Fitness Pros, and a few others that are smaller, that are more catering to movement people who are PTs, massage, maybe some of the Czech therapy, Paul Czech, and the people from the Czech Republic, like a lot of the guys who do DNS, and all the alphabet soup is in there. The NKT people, the MAT people, the DNS, all that kind of stuff is very interesting to me. So I'd like to talk to the people who are into it, try to create some community, and at some point try to spread this information out to regular golfers or just regular athletes who are out there, for the most part, when they hit middle age, suffering through either low back pain, being overweight, or not being able to move very well. That's just the typical person. So I figure, why not get into what can be done to actually help that.
Well, when we connected out in California, we talked a lot about, just all the groups that you've connected, all the people you've, started conversing with and meeting, and, different meetings and things that you're doing in the golf world, which we'll get into in a little bit. And, I was kind of going through your Facebook profile a little bit and your website, Golf Progress, and looking at some different things. And one of the videos on there was, I think it was titled something like, "Why Should You Listen to Me?" or something like that.
I think it's called "Why I'm Special."
Why I'm Special. Yeah, absolutely. And, here you are. You're a white guy, 3 kids. You're right-handed.
Don't forget that.
You've got
politically
a dog,
moderate.
Politically moderate. You work at a desk, and so you are the epitome of the listeners of the 18 Strong podcast, and that's why I think it's so cool to have you on, a guy who not only fits the demographic of people that are hopefully listening to this show, but somebody who really has taken it above and beyond to go and searched out some of the answers that we're trying to provide here with the guests we have on the show, all of whom are most of whom are people friends of yours. And so give us a little bit of background just about Nick Chertock, the person, the guy outside the golf world, and then kind of bring us into what golf progress is, and then we'll talk about some of the other things coming up.
Well, you're not often given the opportunity to just tell your background, and so at some point I'll interview you, Jeff, but since right now you're talking to me, I'll give you what you're looking for I'll try to do it in under 2.5 hours. Okay.
There we go. Perfect. I can edit.
I'm a CPA. I'm basically a tax accountant by day. I work with a lot of fairly well-to-do families here in the Bay Area doing like trust estate and kind of complex tax work. And so really it comes off as bizarre to most golf teachers and trainers when they find out that, because a lot of them that are in these groups, they just figure that I'm a pro or a trainer of some kind. And a few people I've even known for 3 or 4 years, and then they still didn't know that I was an accountant. So yes, that's what I do. I do it full time. I do it more than full time. And I have 3 kids. I'm married. I've got 3 daughters at home. And I've always been really into the game of golf ever since I got exposed to it, probably when I was about 17. I played a little, but I had this job as a lifeguard at an indoor club. And I was 16 at the time. And I was already kind of weird about like lifting. When my friends and I would lift, I would like analyze their technique, and I had no idea what I was really talking about, but I had read like all the muscle and fitness magazines in the library probably. So I was always really into like joints and movement patterns, and seeing, like, I would point out the guys in the gym who I thought lifted really well and who didn't, including me. And then when I discovered golf, it was like, wow, here's a sport you can really like dig into trying to figure out, because everyone was kind of mystified by it. Like this, I think there's a saying that golf is like a mystery in plain sight or something like that. Something where you see it and you're like, I should be able to hit this ball. I should be able to make a good swing. And almost nobody could, and everyone seemed to have some answer, and there were just the instruction that you see in the golf business is unmatched by any other sport. I mean, Jeff, can you think of another sport where they've got the amount of magazines and TV, like a full channel dedicated to it? It has no comparison.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
And so I'm going along, and I discover like a stack of 70 golf digests in the closet when I'm a lifeguard here at age 16. So I just like read all of those over a couple of month period, and went to the bookstore, tried to read every golf book that I could come across. And so I became golf nerdy a long time ago. And then because of social media, mainly Facebook and the group functions and the ability to take people that are kind of like-minded and connect them up together and just come up with topics for people to talk about. So I think people want to hang out, whether it's in real life or online. They don't always know what to discuss, or maybe they're a little bit afraid of bringing up certain topics. So I like to try to bring up stuff that's actually going to get people talking and maybe have a little controversy, maybe upset some people. And since I have no real like skin in the game, since I'm not a trainer with a reputation to uphold, or a golf teacher who doesn't want to piss off anybody who I may need a job from at some point, I'm pretty free to just try to push the conversation in whatever direction I think would be best for the group in terms of getting people talking or getting more people to join in on it. But running the groups, I would say the Facebook groups, they were big a little while ago. I think they're actually on the decline. I think every little community you'll have that happen. So I think we'll see something new come around the bend here pretty soon in the next few years. That'll be a little different than Facebook groups. It'll be something smaller, like with maybe a higher quality of conversation, and maybe even having it where people are paying money to be able to read it.
Well, with the groups that you've put together, and I mean, I'm only in the golf fitness professionals group that you have, and I know you.
Oh yeah, you're seeing like 2% of the total activity that's going on out there. You should see we'll get you in the golf biomechanist group at least. Yeah,
from our conversation, apparently I think you've had some heated debates in a couple of these different groups. It seems like the golf fitness pros. I mean, I've enjoyed being in the group, and it's cool because, like you said, you like to throw out different subjects, different questions, and then it seems like we get pretty good feedback back and forth. Different people, kind of talking about different philosophies or different things that they like to do with their clients, with their golfers, but in a very civilized manner. And I think it's a cool forum for people to connect and relate with each other and get to know each other and learn new things, hopefully, and find new resources. What have you found? What's been your experience between some of the different groups and the education that's being put out there from the different individuals?
Well, I mean, if you're on the Golf Fitness Pro group, to be honest, almost everybody is on the same page in there. Primarily, a lot of them are trained by the same people. If you've gone through a lot of TPI stuff, then you're getting an education in a lot of like FMS-based information, which is all great. I love Gray Cook. I've read a ton of his stuff. I own a lot of his DVDs, and point being, the Golf Fitness Pro group is very tame, and there have not been. I can get into it with like a guy who's a bodybuilder, Mike Manavian. Maybe he's listening.
He's been a guest on the show.
Yeah, so I try to like mix it up with Mike a little bit because he knows that I think bodybuilding is not at all golf fitness training. And it really is a different thing altogether. But at the same time, I used to love bodybuilding back in high school. And so like I respect it for what it is. And I think every guy would prefer to look better than to look worse. And so aesthetics are like, they're a thing out there to be recognized. But when it comes to like, what am I going to do to my body to play better golf 2 months from now, if I walk into the gym, the stuff that I would do is different than if I just want to look as yoked as I possibly can.
Sure.
So we can get a little arguments there, or some nuances can come about between trainers or between people with. We had some good stuff a couple months ago over. I think Charlie Weingroff can get in and mix it up because he has some strong opinions about like golf training where it's trying too hard to emulate the swing, and where it's not really he calls it golfish. Mm-hmm. And you've probably seen that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
In his presentation kind of talked about that, and there's Jason Glass sometimes will get in there with an opinion that might be very different than a more traditional strength coach, and you've probably heard a lot of Jason's podcasts, and he had some stuff about strength training being overrated and stuff that I've gotten into a lot about guys who go in and just like bench press for their golf fitness training or to try to just become a better athlete. They're going to do lifts that they did in high school.
Right.
So the other groups, like golf biomechanists, it's quite a collection of different people who will come into there, because I don't restrict it to just teachers, but you have to have some reason to be in there other than just being someone interested in the topic. Like generally it's going to be instructors or maybe some trainers or actual biomechanists, but you get people from the golf teaching side mixed in with people more taking a science-based approach where the languages that are being used are so different, and the ideologies can be pretty ingrained in some of these groups. And so, I can't even remember over the last few years how many just huge arguments where I had to go in and delete a bunch of crap because people get personal with their comments. And people can take this golf theory thing pretty seriously, more so than the people in the fitness world, I think.
Yeah, it seems like there can definitely be some very strong opinions in all the teaching world. There's so many different philosophies and people that think that there's a certain way that a club should be swung or different things going on in the swing. Now, you hosted a big open forum at the PGA show this past year, which I saw 3 years ago. It was held in a bar. And This year, how many people did you have at this forum? And kind of explain a little bit who you hosted it with and what the premise was.
All right, so this is the third open forum. We had 303 people that were there. It's the first year we charged money to go to it. The past 2 years it was free to go, but we charged $60 in advance, $80 at the door, with a $5 discount if you're a Golf MD's account holder. But the open forum originally was myself and Mike Michaelides. Mike actually said in my forum, the golf teaching pro group, which I didn't mention, has the history of having the worst, just knockdown battle royale threads in there of me having to ban people and people threatening lawsuits, and a lot of craziness has happened in there. So it just shows you that it's the golf pros that are the most crazy, but I love them. The open forum was Mike and I, because Mike said, hey, let's have a real event. No one would talk trash like this in person. Let's just all get together. I'm sure we're all golf teachers here. We should be able to have a civilized evening. And, there's this PGA show in Orlando where a lot of people go to it. So why don't we do that over there the night before the show starts? And I think he contacted me or I contacted him. I can't remember. And we decided to do it. And then I knew this guy, Chris Como, who I'd been talking to on the phone a lot. And I thought he was pretty smart. And he was into the golf biomechanics stuff. Obviously, I'm into that as well. And so I told Mike, hey, let's get Chris to be the moderator, because I'm not qualified to stand in between Joe Mayo and Lynn Blake arguing about something to do with ball flight. I'm not the one to moderate. We need somebody who knows the ins and outs of the coaching and the TrackMan and the biomechanics. And Chris was really the only one I could think of who could do that. And so we brought Chris in. We kind of made it into this night where we were going to try to get the smartest people we could find in golf and put them all in one room. And we were just going to see what happened. So we didn't really have any structure to it. And if you watch, there was a video of the first open forum, and it was cool. It was different, but at times just a total train wreck in terms of organization. But a lot of people came back to Open Forum 2 last year, and we put together, we had 4 biomechanists presenting. So we had Rob Neal, Sasha McKenzie, Mike Duffy, Phil Cheatham. Those guys each presented, and then we had these 2 panels of all-star instructors, and there were 15. I mean, see, Chuck Cook was up there with Manzella and Mike Adams, and you had Rob Holding from Canada. You had James Lights, Andrew Rice, John Graham, Tyler Farrell, and I'm leaving out, of course, 10 or 12 other guys. So my apologies if I didn't throw your name out there, but pretty good couple of panels where they would take questions, and that went pretty well. But I thought year 3 would try to get back to a little more of the interactive nature of it. And so what I did was mix together presentations. There was live instruction for the first couple hours. So Rob Holding and Brian Manzella each did some live instruction. Rob was using the Swing Catalyst and TrackMan, and Brian was just using TrackMan, and they each did an hour. And then we had 3 biomechanists this year. We had Dr. Kwan, we had Sasho back, and we had Phil back, each doing presentations that went about 45 minutes each. And we had some panels. So we had a ground reaction force panel with a bunch of PhDs, and Rob Holding was kind of taking the teacher position in that panel. And then we had a huge one that I moderated. It was about skill acquisition. So we had Greg and Dave from TPI, and Lance, and Mike Voigt, and we had Trillium Sellers, who's got a master's in motor learning from Columbia. We had Matt Wilson, who's a blogger, along with Corey Lundberg. They do the Curious Coaches blog. I had Liam Mucklau from the Golf Lab. I'm probably leaving out a couple people off that panel because it was a big one.
Yeah,
but
kind of the who's who in the golf world. I mean, this is kind of incredible, the names that you're throwing out, and some of the listeners may not recognize all of these, but I mean, these are all big time instructors and fitness people, and I mean, people that I definitely recognize and respect a lot of the information that they're putting out.
Yeah, it was cool to me to just see everybody there, and then I remembered, oh crap, I'm moderating, and I have no questions prepared. So I made them all up kind of on the spot, which I told Greg after that, I'm sorry, man, I didn't really prepare all that well, but next year, definitely next year.
Next year, number 4.
Yeah. I tend with this stuff, in my regular job, I'm very careful because it's, putting tax returns out there with millions of dollars of computations on there. If you screw up one little thing, it could cost someone a couple of Mercedes possibly, and so you take extra care. But with this stuff, I just go in head first. Don't you go rent a big space that I maybe or maybe not will be able to pay for. This year we had it at the Rosen Plaza, and they know it's PGA Show Week, so they completely gouge you on everything.
Sure.
On the room. I mean, I hope they're not listening. The good peeps at the Rosen were very kind to host us there, but they wanted to charge $1,700 to hang a black curtain behind everybody. So we put that blue one up for $50.
Nice.
You didn't go to the PGA show, did you?
I was not there, unfortunately.
Well, we will have a video, and we had a camera crew, and the audio visual element was not cheap either, and those guys I'm sure know what time of year it is and that people are doing big PGA show related events. So all told, there was a lot of money went in and out, and we made enough about to cover our lodging and our accommodations.
Gotcha. Well, when the video does become available, let me know. We'll make sure we post it up on 18 Strong, and if you guys are selling it, we'll put it out. Hopefully the audience will want to take a peek and maybe make a few of those bucks back.
We'll spam the hell out of them.
Yeah, you got it. Emails galore. All right, so when we were kind of connecting about the show, and we'll actually, let me take a step back, because I know that the listeners are all thinking, well, hold on, he mentioned Chris Como. How did that connection happen? And what's the relationship with you and Chris? And then obviously we got to talk a little bit of Tiger, and what can you give us as far as the relation that he's had, and any insights into what's going on with Tiger these days?
He plays that very tight. He keeps all that information pretty close. I have not even talked to him about Tiger at all. We talked a lot to plan the Open Forum, but he's kind of in his own world right now, doing the coaching thing, and not just coaching Tiger, but Trevor and Jamie Lovemark. And I know he spends time with his other players as well, but he's really grinding on this situation. I would just say, as far as Tiger, I think the media has it wrong as far as what they probably work on. If I had to guess, I don't think Chris is technical at all, really, when he teaches. And they just assume that. But just imagine that there was a time where he was not studying biomechanics at all and was a good coach and was working with like Tommy Armour the third, and he had successes years ago from just old-fashioned golf coaching. But people pigeonhole you and they say, oh, that's the guy, he's studying this thing, so he must teach a certain way.
Right.
And I've never watched Chris give a golf lesson, but we've talked enough where I think that they probably are way off on that. And so someone like Brandel Chambly, he's probably trying to figure out, like, based on what Tiger maybe says in his interviews, he probably has tried to come up with an idea of how Chris must work with him. But I'm betting that it's not at all what people think.
Right. Well, we all know Brandel has his own opinions, and they may not always fit the mark. Let's just say.
Yeah, I mean, he'll assume, like, oh, because I guess Chris used to drive around with a TrackMan in his car, like he's a huge TrackMan guy. But I don't even think of him as being someone who is really into like parking someone in front of the TrackMan and just geeking out on that. It's just, I think people like to label. And with Tiger, everything's a secret. So it's not their fault in the media. I hear you guys. I know why you have to make up stuff, because Tiger doesn't give you anything to go off. And that's just the way he prefers it. He's been burned before. And if I was Tiger, I'd probably do the same thing. I wouldn't want to tell anybody, because when he does share something, there's a flurry of critiques of it to where now you're having to defend something that you shouldn't even be talking to other people about. Phil Mickelson doesn't have to worry about that. Rory doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's kind of a lose-lose situation no matter what he says. Some people are going to take it positive, some are going to take it negative. So, but I figured I had to touch on that because I know that the listeners were wondering when you mentioned his name. Now, when you and I were kind of getting, or we were starting our conversations about the podcast and you coming on, one of the things that we discussed was that we wanted to touch on were, some of the miseducation or misconceptions that are going on, both in the fitness world and in the instruction world. Let's pick one or two things in both the fitness side and the instruction side that you've seen, or maybe that you've been taught as a golfer, somebody trying to improve their game. What are some of those misconceptions? Maybe the biggest one, fitness-wise and instruction-wise, that you've seen?
I think fitness misconception would probably be people thinking that if you're going to incorporate this whole golf fitness approach, you have to stop playing and move and be able to score a 21 on the FMS, like perfect movement, before you go and start playing again. And then you relearn everything golf with this whole new way of moving. And they think of that and they think, well, I'll never be able to stick to that. And then so they don't do anything. And so I think it's this myth that also a lot of teachers have about trainers and TPI, is that you're going to take my golfer away from me and make him go just focus on doing some exercises for a year. And then he's never, meanwhile, I'm not making any money. I'm not teaching him. And then he decides that he likes the gym and he doesn't like golf anymore. That kind of attitude that you might see with a lot of instructors who haven't really been exposed to the whole fitness and movement side of things, that keeps them fearful and not wanting to refer out, definitely, but not even wanting to hear about it.
Yeah, and I can say that I haven't really run into that here personally with the instructors that I know in St. Louis, but I know that is a common concern for a lot of the fitness pros that I know, or they've come into contact with some golf instructors that may have a little bit of a bad rub when it comes to the fitness side. And, they think exactly that the golf fitness professional is going to take them away and try to rehaul their movement patterns and all this stuff, and they're going to lose lessons. But as far as for the listeners and you guys out there, if that's a concern of yours, that, oh my gosh, jumping into a fitness program, a golf fitness program, going to see a professional, is that their job and what they're going to do is take you and kind of overhaul your whole movement patterns and figure out what's wrong with you, and you got to fix it all before you go to swing a club again. That's not real life stuff. That's not the way the real world works. And it's like anything. There's ebbs and flows. You got to figure out, okay, how can I make this person better a little bit today, and what can I do to help them? But what's my long-term goal as well? And I think that that's an important point that you brought up, that it's not really like that. You don't just kind of stop and do all this stuff and all of a sudden you become a person that can move perfectly, and then you're going to all of a sudden have a perfect golf swing. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, and I think people need to have a training effect, even if they're doing rehab, prehab, PT, whatever it is. And so I think it's a lie that people tell themselves so they can not try to pursue this whole golf fitness path, is to say, oh my God, they're expecting me to make this huge change. It's similar to dieting, where I think people fail in diets because it's easy. You can tell yourself the story of, well, I could never stick to this long term, so why even try? Fuck it.
Right.
And I hope this is unrated. Sorry.
We can edit, or I can put the little explicit tag on there.
But another misconception I think that's out there is people who just don't understand the difference between general fitness and golf-specific fitness. And maybe the word golf fitness itself is not a very good term, and maybe something new will come out, like something to do with readiness. I don't know whether the average person, when I play golf with people, I ask them lots of questions. I'll ask them, have you taken lessons? Why or why not? Do you want to improve? Like, what do you do to try to get better? Really trying to get inside their head, like to know what does a typical golfer think? Because I know I'm not typical, so I wouldn't try to assume to really know what's going on in their head. But usually when I bring up golf fitness, they're automatically thinking about either pure conditioning, like endurance, or weight loss. So they're thinking fitness as in, I have a belly that I want to lose, or they're thinking like muscle, your body transformation kind of thought pattern of like having a better physique. And so they're thinking along one of those lines, and I'm like, no, I'm really just talking about like the way you move, so you can move this club here. And like if I say John Daly, his golf fitness is off the charts amazing, because his hips are mobile. He can forward bend as much as he needs while side bending and rotating perfectly. Maybe he's had an injury or two. I know he hurt his ribs a couple of years ago, but essentially he doesn't really matter that he's a big slob, or he was. He has good golf fitness, and they can't really wrap their minds around the word fitness and John Daly. But the attributes that we're talking about are very different than the traditional general fitness attributes. And so when you tell someone that, they just don't take the time to understand that, we're the engine of the golf swing. Our body, like that's our asset that we have. And so if you have something about you that won't move, you're going to somehow try to figure a way around that. And if the golf teacher isn't even aware that that's going on, they can't really effectively help you. If someone has physical limitations and you're trying to teach them to play golf and you're not aware of that, then you can't effectively teach them. And if you don't know that as a student, you will basically be frustrated your whole golfing career, most likely, because you'll try to make changes that are not possible without making deeper changes. And you can refer to my golf progress golf improvement pyramid, if you wish, which you've probably never seen, but I had these 4 categories, and they're stacked upon each other. So I had physical at the base, because you can only do what you can physically do, and then technical on top of that, and then decision making on top of technical, so strategy, anything that requires you to just make a choice, like where to aim your shot or what club to hit or how to swing it. And then at the top was just mental state. So each rested upon the other. It doesn't mean one's more important than the other, but physical at the bottom, in that, if my right shoulder doesn't externally rotate at all, I have to do something about that. I can't just go up and swing and say, okay, I'm going to make it rotate this time. So it just means you're stuck with what you have. And so looking at it, knowing what does that mean for my swing, what can be improved. A lot of those attributes can be improved, but another lie people tell themselves is that if I just do all this golf fitness stuff, I will move really well by the end. And when in reality, if you've been sitting at a desk for 25 years, I'm sorry, you're not going to be a champion overhead squatter anytime soon.
Right.
Or possibly ever. But, people have to accept reality. So I think some people, they get sold the lie probably by just media and images similar to working out in general and dieting, that man, if I just follow these little couple rules and try really hard, I will get these tremendous results. Where in reality, I think the results from a golf fitness program, if you can get a little bit more stability and a little bit better movement, a little more range, and be able to combine all that and change your overall movement pattern, you can get a lot of improvement from minor little improvements at the base, the core of what's driving your ability to do anything.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, that, reality is a big part of this. And, the postures, the positions, the genetics sometimes of what you have going on, is you have to realistically look at that and figure out, okay, if I sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. Nick, I have to say you've got the most diverse background noises we've ever had on the 18 Strong podcast.
Yeah, that was a vacuum.
Nice.
Did you hear it?
I did hear that. But looking at what you're doing, and then having a realistic goal of, okay, I'm not gonna be a perfect specimen. I'm not gonna be able to do a clean overhead squat within 3 weeks, and maybe not ever. That just may not be what is going to be in my future. But then figuring out ways to work around it. But when you do have a golf professional and a fitness person that realizes that there are those limitations, they can then start to help you work around those things. Find what are legitimate, feasible compensations that you can make, what are bad ones that you shouldn't be making, and then kind of go from there. So I want to get into just a couple other little questions for you, basically kind of almost like a hot seat round before we finish up our interview here. And
some hot takes.
Yeah, so since you are a little bit of a different guest, I wanted to do something a little bit different with you, because a lot of the golfers out there are going to relate to your experiences. And so I'm just going to throw a few quick questions at you, just some short, simple answers. Hopefully I don't catch you too off guard, and then we'll get into some closing stuff and figure out where everybody can find you and where to go to learn more about Mr. Nick Chertock. But first question. Right. What is the most gratifying moment you've ever had on the golf course?
I flushed a 7-iron recently, and it was about 2 feet from the hole, and I think hitting that just that perfect mid-iron shot. It sticks in my memory because it's fairly recent. I've made a few holes in one, but I didn't stripe it on those shots. I caught it thin to win, so you can't get that excited over it. But no, I hit a shot that was just perfect, and so yeah, that's my highest moment I can remember so far.
All right, and then what's your most embarrassing moment out on the golf course?
I think I was at like a corporate outing, and I hit 6 shanked mid-irons on the same hole.
Wow.
Yeah, I just kept going into the woods, and then I'd drop, and I'd go back into the woods in a different spot. And it was just horrific. And I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. But then I started playing well. I shot like 1 over on the back 9.
Very nice.
So I think when I actually shank, I'm closer to my good swing. There's just something that needs to be adjusted for, and then I usually play well after that.
What's the silliest golf gadget that you've ever tried?
I have a ton of them that I haven't tried yet. That's the other thing I never even mentioned. I still have it. I have a video series, Golf Progress, where I talk about myself trying to get to a 7 index by the time I'm 40, which is in August of this year. And in that process, I've bought or been sent dozens of training aids. Probably the silliest is this one that it's actually a toy for dogs. It's a golf club, and you put a tennis ball down at the bottom, and if you release it just right, it launches it. It's called like the golf doggy ball launcher, something like that. But that was pretty ridiculous. Let's see, when I go to the PGA show, though, I think the shirts that cause your arms to be strapped to your body are just pretty redonkulous.
Right.
I would, even me, I just can't see wearing them. I don't really buy into that swing philosophy either. But no, I've never worn like an orange swing shirt. And if you're one of the executives of the company listening, I'm sorry.
Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore?
Caddyshack.
Very good. You mentioned that you have read just about everything under the sun on golf. What's the best golf book you've ever read that you could recommend?
Oh, man. The best golf book. One that I read that I liked a lot of the ideas in, because I hadn't really looked at any golfing machine stuff at all. I like Bobby Clampett's book, The Impact Zone. I did feel like he left out the whole fitness side of things, because he would talk about the difference between something and its style versus what he called dynamics. But he was really talking about like what is an element of the swing that can look different, but it doesn't really matter, versus what's functional. And so some of the stuff in there was eye-opening to me, and there's some really good drills in there. And it's very golfing machine oriented. So it's, there's some really good concepts in there, and there's some stuff that if you look at it biomechanically, it's not actually happening. But that was a good book.
Very good. And since you are the most well-connected man in the world of golf,
I don't know about that. You got to talk to Lauren Anderson.
I was going to say, who would you like to see on the 18 Strong podcast as a guest?
Let's see. Has Lance come on?
You know what? Lance's episode just came out today. He was my guest last week.
How about Dave Phillips?
Dave Phillips has not been on the show yet. I would love to get Dave on. Awesome.
That would be a good one. I always like to listen to what Dave has to say.
Very good. Well, I will definitely reach out to Dave and see if he can make some time for us. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if it would help or hurt to say that I wanted him on there.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll use your name or not. Maybe I'll go through Lance.
Yeah, you should get Dave on.
All right, Nick, and what has you excited for 2015 with your golf game and with everything you've got going on?
Well, I've found a good physical therapist I'm working with. She's in Oakland, and I live in Alameda, which is to the east of San Francisco. So I'm excited to have somebody to go see to work on some issues that I think have been holding me back for a while. I'm also working with a trainer, Jennifer Fleischer. Do you know her?
I do not.
Well, she's in San Francisco, and she's just badass. So we've been working together about 2 weeks, and so I'm going to be working with her all the way through till the end of this goal. I'm just excited that the weather's going to warm up pretty soon. I've got my practice net in the backyard. I've got golf balls. I'm ready when it stays lighter. It's a little easier to get some practice in versus the dark days of December, January. So I'm really excited once tax season is over for me, April 15th. That's when I really start getting into golf. So that's my push to try to get to this goal between April and August, and see if I can do it.
Very nice. And you have any last pieces of advice, and then where can the audience find you?
Pieces of advice. I would say just listen to people who have opinions that are totally different from yours, and try to set aside whatever biases that you might have. You can reach me on Twitter at Golf Progress. You can find me on Facebook by my name. I have a Golf Progress page on Facebook also. If you're a golf teacher or if you're a trainer, you can get into these groups. They're private, so it's not for everybody. You have to qualify to be in it. But if you're on Facebook, go ahead and search those out. Golf Teaching Professionals, Golf Biomechanists, Golf Fitness Pros. Check those out, and that's probably where you will see me.
Cool. And everybody knows that I'll have all that stuff linked up in the show notes page, so they'll be able to find your Twitter, your Facebook, some of the links to different groups if it's an appropriate one for the people that are out there. And I can't thank you enough
Oh, sorry to interject. One more thing. The Open Forum 3 video should be ready in the next couple of weeks. Perfect. And so we had those people I mentioned. We also had a really good stats panel. You had Mark Brody up there talking about some of his ideas, and along with 5 or 6 other guys. So it's going to be a good product.
Very cool. We'll definitely put that up, and like I said, when that does release, let me know, and I'll make sure to put it out to everybody in the audience for sure.
All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for having me on, and it's always nice to be interviewed. I'd like to interview you one of these weeks here. So we're going to be launching a show. I'm involved with a company called Golf MDs, so I'll have you on Golf MDs Radio talking about golf fitness training.
Anytime, man. You just let me know.
All right, brother. Peace out.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye.
Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that chat with Nick. I just think it's so cool that this all started with him having a curiosity about the game, the love for the game, and wanting to get better at the game. And so he just wanted to start asking questions about different topics, about the body, about the swing, and different things like that. And that has caused a whole ripple effect amongst the golf world, where he has basically started to foster relationships amongst many of us different fitness professionals, swing coaches, everybody, and has started conversations in his forums, in his groups. And I just think it's very cool that a guy like Nick, who is, has a full-time job elsewhere, is able to create some of these conversations and lessons that we're all able to learn and connect with different people via these social media platforms as well as live in-person events. So, Nick, thank you for what you're doing. We all appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing for the game of golf. So keep it up, man. And I just want to thank you guys for coming on the 18 Strong podcast, listening to another one of our great interviews. And hopefully you will continue to share the love and share the podcast with your friends, your family on social media. Please let us know on Twitter, Facebook, how can we make this show better? We want to make this the best golf show out there, golf fitness, life. It's not all just about fitness, as you can tell by the recent guests we've had. We want to touch on a lot of different topics that basically create the solid package of your golf game so you can finish 18 strong. So please, if you haven't yet, leave a review in iTunes. Go give us a rating and let us know what you think. Always appreciate that, as that helps spread the word in iTunes and helps push us towards the top of the podcast charts. And if you haven't yet visited us over at 18strong.com, be sure to do that too. There is a free ebook available, which is 5 yards in less than 15 minutes. Just a couple quick drills to give you a little bit more gas in the tank when you're out there swinging the sticks. Just a couple ways that you can kind of enhance the way you're training your body, the things that you're doing to build a little bit more speed in your swing. So that's a free gift to you guys from me at 18strong.com. But be sure to go there. You'll see it on the right-hand side of the screen, and it's free to snatch up. So go ahead and do that. And then just to finish up, I want to say thank you guys one more time. And as always, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Yeah, I think people who can't fire their glutes, like they have no ass at all.
Exactly.
You see them like it's atrophy beyond recognition of a regular ass.